Good evening, Browns fans, OBR fans, and supporters of the OBR streaming network. My name is Joe Mazzulo. This is my man Pete Smith. Welcome to Pete and Joe post-draft edition. Pete Smith, it's been a long off season, man, but it's a pretty damn good weekend for Andrew Berry and company. How you feeling?
Good. Now that I get to actually dive in and do all the tape work, I'm pretty happy with particularly the early picks, and we'll see how I feel when I get to the later ones. You all right over there? It's pretty dark.
Yeah,
Did something
yeah, you're
happen?
right. Give me a second, Pete. I forgot about that one. Let me adjust that right quick. It's a little bit better.
I was worried that you were being taken over by the onion.
No, no way. No way, no how. No, we're good. We're fighting strong. I got to tell you, Pete, you're going to have to talk me off of some of my optimism,
Oh,
because look, I'm
it can't be more optimistic than some of the stuff I've heard today. It can't be.
look, there is a lot of optimism going around right now, and look, deservedly so. I'm sorry. This is the second draft weekend in a row that Andrew Berry's absolutely crushed it. He's made good picks. He's made smart picks. He's read the draft board so well. I feel like he navigates that as good as anybody. I'm super impressed with Andrew Berry at the moment, and my I will say I had some negative initial reactions to some of the picks, but it's more or less them going against what I thought they should do, like fundamentally. Like we've been talking about it all year. I want a brutish, I want a big, powerful, physical, dominating offensive line. I want big, powerful players. They are going in the other direction, Pete. They're going with athletes. They're going with precision. They're going with technicians. They're going with just like kind of a different direction from what I'm expecting. So I had written off Parker Brailsford. I had written off some of these guys that I thought were more finesse, more zone blocking, more whatever. I thought we were going to go to more of a power scheme, but it just doesn't seem like that's where they're going.
Well, they want to do both.
Yeah.
And I agree with you. The Parker Brailsford pick was the most surprising just based on everything else they've done. But Spencer Fano is a big, strong dude. Like
Yeah.
he should only get stronger. Austin Barber is not lacking power either. He needs to continue to fix his anchor and some other things. But they are active guys who play mean, and that's part of it. I think they play a physical brand of football that maybe not. They're not the 330-pound lean on guys type of bruisers, but I don't want those anyway. Like, even if they had gotten Keelan Rutledge, who is somebody I really liked, he's still athletic. Zion Johnson is, which is really weird because like I'll listen to like the guys who do NFL Stock Exchange, like Trevor Stickema, talk about like the Browns signed a bunch of power guys, and I'm just looking around going, where? Like, Zion Johnson's not weak by any stretch. He's supremely athletic, and Titus Howard is big.
Yeah.
Never been regarded as a power guy. Tevin Jenkins a little bit, but like by and large, they've gotten a bunch of mobile dudes up front, which I'm fine with. But the goal and why I think you have to get these guys early is it's difficult to find guys who can do all of it. And
Yeah.
I think that's the balance they're trying to strike, is to get athletes with power. And I think some of what they're trying to do is make up for what might be perceived as a lack of just power with aggression. Guys who are just going to be quick off the ball, who can make up for some of that by generating momentum and just being quicker to the punch, which can be certainly valuable. I like that part of it. But yeah, the Brailsford one's the one I sit there and go, show me. And if Parker Brailsford's out there right now, I hope he's eating a sandwich. Like, just keep packing it on. I hope he can get to 300 pounds because he looks really good in what he does. I'd like to see him get a little bit more meat on him if possible. He may be a guy, like your old buddy Eric Steinbach, who is struggling just to get up to
290.
that. Yeah.
It's rocking 282 all season. Look, I get what you're saying, but it's just like that to me has been the theme of the offseason, right? They're emphasizing athleticism over power. They're emphasizing movement over, strength at the point of attack. Not that they don't want both, and then they won't certainly accept both, but there's clearly something that they're targeting. And the
Mhm.
common denominator in all these linemen is versatility and athleticism, which is okay. You can win in multiple ways in the NFL. And, I have an odd take on the offense because, like, there's certainly the argument that it would be in their benefit if they're not going to be a playoff contender this year to be bad, right? It's almost like they built the offense to, if we have high level quarterback play, we're going to be really, really good.
Mhm.
But if we don't, we're not going to we're going to have a hard time. Because it's not like you're going to have this dominant line and dominant running game to just lean on and, just like pound out the yards and create offense and stuff like that. I mean, hopefully they do, but I feel like without a threat at quarterback, it's going to be tough for the offense.
Well, I mean, I like the fact that they have obviously some of these guys have to prove it,
Yeah,
but they've put the quarterback room in a position where like they can't sit there and basically Andrew Berry goes to the quarterback room and goes, "Don't look at me if you guys suck."
no more excuses. Agreed.
Yeah, I like that part from two different angles. One, obviously, if one of these guys is good, not named Deshaun Watson, great. Like I love that. On
Yep.
the other hand, if they're bad or
Great.
whatever, and
Great.
we go into the offseason, and you and I talked about this consistently, the Kyler Murray element, whoever that's going to be, looks around and goes, Cleveland's really good. That's a really good indication that the Browns have this thing going in the right direction. And I obviously we'll see where they're at in terms of the record and everything else. Maybe a veteran's the way to go. But I'm hoping it's if the veteran's sitting there going, man, Cleveland looks pretty good, then that also means that the rookie they are likely to go after is going to be put in the right situation, that we're not doing the
Exactly.
thing where we get the quarterback and then
Throw them to the wolves.
then we try to build it up as we go. I am obviously very curious to see what happens with the running game. I think so much of this is just going to be gelling and figuring out what one center and right guard is still a big question mark. I don't know how that's going to shake yet, which is look, they have time and stuff, but it's one of those things where it would have been if they had gotten Chase Besantis or they'd gotten Keelan Rutledge, we would have known our starting five right now, which I think would be a big advantage given what they are trying to do, which is revamp the entire thing. As it is, they get out there and they go, Parker Brailsford crushes it. They go, great, Elton can move to right guard and we're good. But if they get out there and go Parker Brailsford and they go, wow, he's smaller than I thought he was.
Yep.
And then you have to sit there and go, well, do we want to put Elton at center? And if so, do we really feel good about who we have a right guard and all those conversations? And, can Tevin hold up long enough? Are we going to try KT in there? Is there somebody else? Are we going to try to bring in another play? Like that's where I don't love it. I think we're pretty well set that it's going to be Spencer. I love how tough our line sounds based on their first names. Spencer, Parker, and Austin roughing dudes up. But anyway, you get Spano at left tackle, Zion Johnson at left guard, which is I love from a athleticism and skill set point of view. I love that setup.
Yeah.
To be determined, right guard to be determined, Titus Howard. But like, I guess I look at teams like the Pittsburgh Steelers, who and you sit there and you go, man, it'd be great if the Browns could just do what some of these other teams have done, like every time they get in the playoffs and just run them over. But at the same time, like Spencer Fano is so damn athletic, he can reach Alex Highsmith or Nick Herbig or some of these guys. Like that's a problem for them, that he is as athletic as he is, that he can take away some of their advantage or force them to line up super wide to try to take that away or do something else, that they can do things like run zone and those things and keep them off balance, and then do something like hopefully run trap or counter and all these things that Spencer Fano has done at Utah, where now they can bring the power element. I think some of what helps the power element is the fact that they have more options. Whereas last year, which is what really frustrated me and why I like having athletes up front, they couldn't do anything. Like it wasn't this they weren't good. It's you didn't have any options. Like they couldn't run zone because their guys were just too slow. They couldn't run powerfully because they were running into these giant these boxes that were so full that there was nowhere to go. Like,
Yep.
if you want to load up an 8-man box right now, the Browns can theoretically run outside and give you a problem. Obviously, again, all these guys have to work out really well, but the receiving element is where I think this thing's going to get really good, really fun. And obviously, there's going to be some growing pains and all this other stuff, but that is where I think the combinations are going to be all over the place in terms of how they use these guys, based on what I've seen these guys doing, particularly the tape I've gotten to watch. And shout out the guy who makes just the tape videos. You are a hero. Watching those guys, just Boston and Concepcion, I could see Todd Monken just moving them all over the place, and he should. I mean, they're better doing that. Jerry Jeudy can do that. Eric Fan can move all over the place, and you're, as a defense, now you have to figure out how to deal with all these moving parts. That's challenging. So I love the setup from the standpoint of, we have to, hopefully these guys are going to come through enough that it's going to make it very apparent either the quarterback play is going to be good enough, or we're all going to be sitting there going, we know what we need, and now it's a matter of finding that guy.
Yeah. Look, the reality of the fact is that we're probably going to feel that way. There's not a lot of people, whether it's Browns fans or the national media or anybody, that looks at this roster and is like, yeah, I definitely see one of these quarterbacks stepping up and taking the job long term. So that is what it is, right? But if you look at the tables that has now been set for these players, man, like, okay, so you've been doing a deeper dive on this film. How do you feel now after a little bit more film study on Denzel Boston? Just on what he's capable of. Like, I know that he's not a finished product, but you at least see the vision of all the different things he can do. And his ability his agility for a guy his size is I'm sorry, it's special. It's really intriguing.
Yeah, he had 6'8" cone at 212 pounds or whatever, and he did a 4.28 shuttle after a 4.3 shuttle. Like, those are really good times. Flexibility and agility are his strongest elements. And this is one of the reasons I would be very disappointed if they just said you're the X and did nothing else. Because one, if you look at his usage and everything he did at Washington, Damon Williams is not good. Accuracy is all over the place, and there are a lot of balls that go right to the other team. But 80% of Denzel Boston's completions the past 2 seasons are for first downs. So that's one thing that you're sitting there going, okay, chain mover, great. Like, and if he does that, awesome. The other part is obviously red zone. Yeah. But I don't want him lined up at X and throwing fades. If you're going to throw fades in the end zone, throw slot fades. And he's done that, and he's good at it. So that's the element. Like, it's more difficult as a defense to cover the slot fade than it is to just a traditional fade. The angles are more difficult. The DB's in a tougher spot, and Denzel Boston's really good at that element of the game. So I'm hoping to utilize that. Plus, he's a pretty good blocker. I would absolutely want to use him flexed and in bunch type looks and stuff like that to take advantage of when it was a blocker. But yeah, he's quick. He can, find holes in space. And I think there's some questions about his ability to do his zone coverage. I think the offense can take care of a lot of that just by how they space things and how they do things. And again, the quarterback was not good at that. So that part is where, I think Denzel Boston looks like a capable number 2 receiver, a guy who's never going to be great in terms of yardage if his college is sort of a reasonable facsimile of what he's going to be in the NFL. But he's really good in the red zone. 22 touchdowns. He was better than one out of every 6 passes he caught was a touchdown. Like, that's how good he was at that. So all that signed me up. Like, and this is why I didn't love him as a first round pick. I love that value in the second round. I think that's exactly where you should go. And I think that's exactly the type of expectations you have. And obviously some of this is based on the fact that they got Concepcion. But if the Browns only got Boston, I'd be coming here and saying they still probably need a number 1 receiver. And we'd sit here and sort of go, well, Maybe Jerry Jeudy can bounce back and be good, and hopefully he still can be. Maybe Harold Fannin can take over that role, but we'd still be sitting there going, I don't think we got a number one. That's so given on what they've done and having Concepcion, who's really good, that is where I think Boston's interesting. I think he's exciting in terms of blocking and all those other things that he can do.
Yeah, I agree. And it's for me, it all comes back to the quarterback position because if we don't have a guy, because you don't necessarily need a franchise quarterback to take advantage of your weapons, right? There's a lot of good quarterbacks in this league that can be starter level players and play productive football and run an effective offense without being a franchise guy, without being a 50 million a year guy or that type of level. We don't have that right now. We have a lot of hope, right? We hope that Shador can eventually be that as early as this year. I don't think it's impossible, but he's not there yet, and he certainly hasn't proven to be. Same thing with Dylan. I would put Dylan even further behind Shador. And then obviously we have Deshaun and Tayen Green. Deshaun is really an interesting talking point right now because of all the positivity coming off of the workouts and everything like that. I feel like this is going to be very short-lived. I feel like a scenario where a traits heavy quarterback like Deshaun, who is a big, strong, fast athlete, is going to thrive in a 7-on-7, no contact, no pass rush situation. Like that's when he's going to look his best. Like I can't escape the reality of the last time we saw Deshaun for an extended period of time, which was 2 years ago and 2 Achilles tears ago. And he was the worst quarterback in football by every metric that you could even think of. So I can appreciate whether it's the Browns or whether it's Deshaun or whether it's the Cleveland media trying to hype up how good he looks and how different he is as opposed to the other guys. That's that has little to do with football, as we've seen with Deshaun in the past. So like it's hard for me to say that we don't have a number one wide receiver because we don't have a guy capable of letting them show that they're number one wide receivers. And the two best chances we have at that right now, which is obviously KC and Denzel, they're too young to do that, So it's like you look at what the receiver room is, and I don't see a weakness, man. We have athleticism, we have deep speed, we have the intermediate stuff, we have explosive plays, we have size now. It's just we're short on experience, man. But if you just look at last year to this year, they're polar opposites. Barry's doing an excellent job of addressing the absolute dire needs that we had. We had to fill 5 holes on the offensive line alone.
Right. Well, as the Browns have had one practice that the media had access to, and I was there, I have no idea what anyone's talking about in terms of Deshaun looked great. No one looked great. No one. They look fine. They look like it was day one. Like nobody was great. Like if you saw the clip of him throwing like what looked to be about 7-yard pass in traffic, that was the longest pass of the day for everybody. Like in terms of completions, like nobody was good.
Look, I don't know if it's like the Browns are trying to push this narrative or whatever it is, but like Nathan Zagura was just like, oh, the arm is like the shoulder injury that is behind him.
Fine from that. Like he can throw the ball far.
Yeah.
Great. Like that's not in question. Look, man, Air is in trouble this year. If the Browns play Air, look out. Look, Air is going down. I'm confident the Browns will beat Air this year. But when they have a defense on the field, we'll talk. I mean, Denzel Ward was not there. Tyson Campbell was there, and Grant Delpit was not there, and they stuck. Like the offense,
it was OTAs. It's the same OTAs that if we go back a year is when Tony Grossi was saying Dylan Gabriel looks just like Russell Wilson. Like it's OTAs. It's built for your quarterback to look efficient and look okay.
It's about the journey. Like I want to see them. I want to see these guys progress. I assume, like man, they will get better. But this is the part that people don't want to sort of get is like day one, they're not going to be like right on the same page. Yeah, I get they've played catch a couple times with some of these guys, but like it's not going to be there. Hopefully they will get better, and defense is typically ahead. But as we get these new weapons in camp, and hopefully they start get going, it should be more interesting. Like Casey Concepcion is really good. Like I cannot. You watch the draft and you're like you talk yourself into saying that Mekhi Lemon could be there in 20 in the Browns range. You're like, man, that's really good. But like the fact that they got Concepcion, like I can't overstate how important that is. He has the potential to be a number one receiver, and you watch him, his body control is so easy, and his acceleration, all this stuff. Like you watch him and you start like getting hypnotized in how ordinary it looks. If you watch the corners going against them, they are struggling, including guys like Mansour Delane, are struggling to keep up with him because he's just so easy in terms of being able to get them off balance. He's strong in terms of how he combats. He takes aggressive angles through them as opposed to trying to go around them. Like it's really tough. He gets open up very easily. So I'm really looking forward to seeing Casey Concepcion go up against Denzel Ward and Tyson Campbell. Like that should be, appointment viewing, and that should upgrade the whole thing. Jerry Jeudy has, for the past 2 years, absolutely lit up OTAs and practice stuff. Like he's constantly killing people in coverage. So we'll see if the quarterback play can get better. We should see an uptick. Harold Fannin should have hopefully more space because like every third ball was going to him the first day with everything else that was underneath. So, which is fine. I'm happy with that, but I think with more space, it's only going to get better. So, they've got weapons. We've got to see this. Now, the other part about this, which is really going to be interesting, is like there's an argument or like sort of a discussion to be had is, do the Browns think they are better off with a veteran quarterback because they have so many young weapons? They have 2 rookies coming in. They have Malachi Corley entering year 3. They have Isaiah Bond entering year 2. They have Harold Fannin entering year 2. They have Quinshon Judkins entering year 2. They have Dylan Sampson entering year 2. Or do they sit there and they sit there and go, look, man, a veteran would be really good for all these guys. And if they can throw the ball all over the place and like be on time and all that stuff, like that should highlight these guys. But if one of the young guys is good enough, Shedeur Sanders in his second year, Dylan Gabriel in his second year, if one of those guys can sort of be promising enough that you're going to sit there and talk yourself this idea of, well, if these guys are good enough, they can grow with this thing and the whole group can sort of figure this out at the same time. Obviously, my take on this is, given the veteran they have, I'd rather go with the young guys. But like that's where, and we'll see what happens. If like the Browns could swing a deal for Jacoby Brissett, like I'm genuinely interested in that because I think he'd crush it with this group the same way he did a little bit with Arizona, having Michael Wilson and Marvin Harrison Jr. and Trey McBride, and just being like, yeah, a lot of weapons, get the ball around, and be effective that way. So that's an interesting decision for them to make. If the rookies are good, or not rookies at this point, young quarterbacks are good enough, there's more incentive to lean into them. But if they don't feel good about it, do they feel like, and obviously it depends on what Arizona does, go Carson Beck. Hopefully he crushes it, looks great and ready to start. That would be an outlet where they go, yeah, this would be way more interesting. Jacoby Brissett's a veteran, a guy with credibility as a leader, and could manage this offense with a really good defense. And all of a sudden you can talk yourself into some weird things.
Yeah. No, I get that. I feel like I think we've heard that Arizona's looking for a third rounder for Brissett in a perfect world.
I did not see that. That's good luck.
Yeah, and that's where I'm at. I mean, if you're going to price me out, I'll be priced out. I do wonder though if the Browns don't get good vibes through, Watson, Shedeur, and Dylan through, the OTAs and mini camps and stuff like that, anything before training camp, if they would pull the trigger on the veteran, and how many guys would they have on that list? How many guys would they say, I'm confident this guy would come in and improve things and be a viable starter, if not challenger for the job? I'd be intrigued by that. I think we both agree Jacoby Brissett's one. I think we both would love to look to New York and Jameis Winston. That's another one. I'm a Will Levis fan. I think I've kind of warmed you up at least a little bit to that idea.
I think he's interesting in a shot, but they took a shot with Tayen Green. So I think I'm sort of on Will Levis at this point. The fact that they brought that in, they've got the fun little toolsy project that may or may not work. So at this point, I'm off of that. The one guy I would throw on there that I could see the Browns being interested in would be Tanner McKee. Tanner McKee with the Philadelphia Eagles, he's in the last year's contract, and obviously they have Jalen Hurts. They signed Andy Dalton, and then they drafted Cole Payton. So it sounds to me like they are ready to move
Unloaded.
McKee. Again, price is a factor, but if it's like a 5th round pick or something that, for a guy, if they feel, and it wouldn't be just to like throw Tanner McKee in the mix, it would be you feel good enough that you're going to like put this guy near the top of the list and get him going like immediately because you feel good he could be for the starting job. Okay, like that's where I'm interested. I don't want to just throw another guy onto the pile and now have a 5th quarterback you got to figure out. It would be, and it might be a situation where you're sending somebody else back to the Eagles or somebody somewhere.
Well,
but that's
to piggyback what you're talking about, though, it could be what you're saying, where you feel good enough about this guy that you want him to be a part of the deal. It could also go the other direction, where you feel so poorly about what you have that you're like, we need to do better. I'm willing to take this chance on you, even though I'm not fully convinced on you. I like what you have to offer. You have a little bit of starting experience. Let's go from there. We've been at this for a long time. You know how I feel about Shador. I feel like Shador has a very strong chance to surprise some people this year, but I'm not the Browns, and the Browns are going to think what they're going to think, and they're going to have, a much better idea of what Shador represents, both as a starter and a long-term option than I do, So it's like, it's tough to go against what they say when they make, a move, whether they decide to start Deshaun or move off Shador, or if they go for Shador. Like, it's a lot of it's going to tell you how they truly feel about these guys.
Well, that and the fact that Todd Monken's been coming in and talking about 4th and 1 and all this other stuff, and the free agency, didn't really get me there. The draft has gotten me closer to that they really believe that they are thinking it's 4th and 1 and they want to get it going because they brought in a whole bunch of players that are going to play. Like, and as long as they don't, they aren't terrible, that they're going to be on the field immediately. I mean, those first 4 picks are going to should be factors. Austin Barber's the one that's going to be take a minute to figure out. Parker Brailsford might start. I
was going to ask you about that,
but like,
we don't have a healthy center right now.
Right?
We don't. So there's a very strong chance that he goes through the bulk of the offseason getting all the first team reps because he's the healthy guy.
Right. I have no idea where Jenkins is
in
his recovery. I assume I'm going to guess that they are sort of probably hoping to get him back by the June minicamp because they want to have something with him on the field. But that's, a little over a month.
Do you know what the deal is with Whippler at the moment?
Whatever he did this offseason, which they've never been open about, is clearly still what he's recovering from. And I don't know if this, with him, I have no clue. There's no indication of maybe he's really close and, they just weren't there yet. And by the time that, if he's the next OTA that like the public's or the media is able to go to, maybe he's out there and practicing. Like, could be Jenkins too. They've not really given a timeline on any of these guys. But if the Browns are really cautious with those guys, then and obviously we're going to get a clear, or the Browns are going to get a pretty good look at Brailsford, the rookie minicamp. Like, if they feel good about him, they may just sort of be like, tell the other guys not to rush. We're going to take our time and let Brailsford see what he can do. Now, obviously, they don't have pads on. That's different. But they can obviously get a sense of how strong he is and all this other stuff and how good they feel about it. But that's sort of one of the things to keep an eye on, as well as who is in at right guard. Like, those are going to be questions. Because what I don't want to do, and what Elton Jenkins has sort of hinted that he does, or not hinted, he straight up said it. They don't want to be in a situation where they're just constantly juggling guys around. They figure out where they're going, let them get comfortable and figure this out. And given what they are trying to do, an entire new offensive line, they need to find as fast as they can real roles for these guys so they can get comfortable, so they can start figuring this thing out. It's good that 3 of those positions are locked up. I wish it was more, but the quicker they can get to the 5 figured out and start, filling in roles and really working that first 5 to 8 guys, the better this team will be for it, and the faster we can start thinking about like them coming out and being effective early.
This almost sounds funny to even ask this question because you would think that the act is, a sign in the other direction. But I almost feel like the Parker Brailsford selection at center breathed a little bit of life into Luke Whippler's future as a Brown, because I was under the impression that he wasn't going to fit what they wanted. He wasn't going to be big enough, and they were going to move on and, just go in a different direction. I've been under the impression they were going to go physical, big bodied, powerful, dominant, that sort of thing. And they're going with athletes. They're going with technicians. They're kind of like going with that whatever. So to me, I went into the draft thinking Luke Whippler probably isn't going to make this team, to now that if Luke Whippler is healthy, he's probably in line to start. If they like Brailsford and what he represents, I mean, and don't get me wrong, I think like Elton Jenkins is interesting, right? It's like wherever he ends up, wherever he doesn't go is going to be the question. Like, what are you going to do at right guard if he's playing center? Are you going to go with Zinter? Are you going to go with Tevin, who I think we all agree is probably best as like your sixth lineman, kind of filling in? We don't want to get him hurt.
He clearly has the ability to do it.
Yeah,
but he can't. His body just shoulder last year
has failed him at every turn.
So yeah, I mean that becomes a very open question. I mean, this is sort of the irritating part for me is like, I was ready to sort of get a real right guard and just start figuring out center, and it makes it more challenging. But yeah, obviously Brailsford's going to be a big question, and the long-term projection is a question with the Browns. Maybe they took Brailsford with the thought of we can thicken them up. Maybe they don't care. Like I would love to know what the conversation is with that. What do they actually think? Obviously, they like him. They brought him in, I think, for a 30 visit. So I'm not sitting there going, they like panicked or did something weird or anything. I just would love to know what they think, what they think they want to do in terms of, do they think he's just as is? Do they think he's somebody that can put on weight and maybe get a little stronger, or not even stronger so much as thicker and denser to take on, what is going to be Dexter Lawrence, among other things.
Yeah.
That's a really interesting question. And as is, where does Jenkins end up? And where Jenkins sort of ends up gives a pretty big hint as to which guy might be in the most trouble as far as the roster bubble. Because if Elton Jenkins is at center, Luke Whippler is probably in a world of hurt. Like it's the difference between potentially starting and not on the team. Or likewise, I mean, I think Zinter's in trouble anyway, but like if Elton Jenkins is a right guard, like that may be over already. And then it's a question of where, does KT Leviston have to prove himself to like make it there? Like, I think the Browns like KT Leviston, but like there is a question as to whether or not he really fits what this thing's going to do now. Not to say he's immobile or anything, but that's not his strong suit. He's a power guy.
No. And he's a completely different guard. If he were to move inside, he'd be completely different than everybody else that's inside. He's just kind of similar to Tevin. He's not the athlete that Tevin is, but he's got a similar build.
But he's got
a squatty, powerful build.
He's a strong dude. If he can, I think he's got a lot to prove as a right guard. I know everybody's like, well, you could just slide him a right guard, he'll be fine. I think there's a lot to sort of work on if he actually does it. Yeah. But if he can be successful, I could see him being a power plug type player that's really interesting as to do some of the stuff that you want to do, where you're sitting there going, you can get in this conversation where like you have a left side that's basically like Vanderbilt's line. Vanderbilt runs an offense where they have the big guys on the right, or they flop their line, but they have a strong side unit and they have a speed side unit in terms of their linemen. That is not far off from what the Browns could theoretically do, though I don't expect the Browns to do any flopping. But nevertheless, if you were to have a super powerful right guard, and Titus Howard is not, he is athletic, but he's not really a power guy. But if he and KT can double team and block down on people, then you could do some interesting stuff with that. So it's a lot of, we'll see where they want to go, but like the lack of sort of clarity, at least to what they are telling us, makes this whole thing interesting as far as who you're trying to project is going to make this line. The one thing I do appreciate is the fact that they are not sitting there going, we're resting on our laurels with these backups and guys that even if they might like them, they're not just sitting there and going, yeah, we'll sort of keep these guys around because we like them. Like they brought in Austin Barber, who's going to compete at. I think he's just going to live at right tackle, which is fine with me. I think that's where he's going to live. I don't love the idea of putting him at guard based on what I've seen, but I'll obviously have a better idea in a couple of days or maybe tomorrow. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot to figure out there. They've got a lot of bodies there, and they've got to get these guys healthy to really evaluate. But it's going to be, we'll get some clear. I think we'll get some clarity pretty quickly as far as when this thing starts to shake out. But right now, you're sitting there, and there's a whole lot of linemen, and you're sitting there going, I have no idea, what direction these guys are going to go, and who's actually going to make this team.
Yeah. Well, and that's the whole thing for me is like I feel like Elton Jenkins is going to be the catalyst. That's going to be the one that kind of tells you the direction that they're going. That's going to be the guy that when they place him at a certain position, it's going to tell you we don't like these guys as much as we like this other position. So they're either going to like Whippler or they're going to like Zinter, or they're going to like Brailsford, or they're going to like Zinter. It's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. Now, we've heard it. We've heard it for the past however many days. The Browns had a great weekend. They're getting, almost across the board, they're getting lauded for the great draft. Most people are saying that they won the draft. They had the best draft, this, that, and the other. So I wanted to talk about Andrew Berry, right? Because for one, I didn't want anybody to get fired this offseason coming out of the year, right? But once we fired Stefanski, I thought we should have fired them both. If you were going to make a change, make the clean sweep, all that stuff. I'll be the first to admit, or not the first, certainly, but I have no shame in admitting that I was dead wrong, number one, because a new GM isn't going to be as equipped to deal with this offseason and all of these holes and the salary cap issues and everything else that Barry's navigated so well, right? Mm-hmm. But if you really break down what he's done in these last two drafts, and then you kind of,
I'd expand that. Keep going. Offseason. Well, I'd make it bigger.
I am going to keep going. What I'm basically trying to say is that, and I know it's almost a funny thing to say because it's like if you just take out the worst trade in NFL history, it's not that bad. And look, that's not what I'm trying to do. But what I'm trying to do is say that Andrew Berry made a very aggressive move at quarterback and tried to upgrade on a player that at the time, I would say the majority of whether it's the local fan base or the national media felt they could upgrade. Mm-hmm. They made an aggressive swing and they went for a quarterback upgrade, no different than what the Rams did when they traded for Matt Stafford and they traded Jared Goff and 3 first-round picks with them. That is exactly what the Browns did. The problem is the Browns traded for the wrong guy, and that player failed on a level that nobody saw coming. When Andrew Berry made that trade, the number one issue was, well, how are we going to handle the off-field?
Yep.
Because the guy can play, but man, this off-field is something else. How are we going to recover from this? How are we going to sustain this? There was no talk of like, oh, you can't, he's terrible. You can't trade for that guy. So while, yeah, he gets saddled with the worst trade in NFL history because Deshaun Watson has been an abject failure in every metric you can think of since he's been in Cleveland. I can't place that solely on Andrew Berry, number one. And number two, the way Andrew Berry has navigated post that trade and post that contract with the draft pick restrictions, the financial restrictions, all that stuff. I mean, going into 2024, we thought we were contenders because we thought Deshaun could play.
Oh, no question. You had really, man. Like the check the mic guys are really honest about this stuff. Like in terms of being able to sort of evaluate. Like they and Mike Mina Kimes is also good at this. Like they talk about just how good the roster was. Like the roster was really good.
Yeah.
Quarterback, and it didn't come through. And obviously, they still made the playoffs in 2023, despite it. Playing 5 quarterbacks, they were still able to get there. But obviously, not having those picks made a huge difference. And, I mean,
It's
like
devastating.
It's tough. Could somebody else have come in and potentially done better since the Deshaun thing? Maybe, but that's a really big leap.
Yeah.
It's really tough to sort of get there. I think the thing that the rule the Browns need to have within the organization is Andrew Berry's not allowed to trade first round picks anymore. And it's not just because of the Deshaun Watson trade, though that is part of it, because he's so damn good.
He's good with them. Yes.
Like you're taking Picasso's brush out of his hand with this because 2 years in a row, and obviously the Browns are hoping they're not in the same position where they're picking in the top 10, but they literally got the Micah Parsons trade last year out of just moving from 2 to 5. And then this year they got the Jonathan Grenard trade out of thin air because the Browns were going to take Fano anyway.
Yep.
So like he's really good at being able to make more assets and then use those new draft picks and all those things to do things like he wants to do, like go up and get Emmanuel McNeil-Warren, which obviously we'll see what he does. But like the fact that they came out of this draft, we went in with 2 first-round picks, a second-round pick, a third-round pick, and then by the end of it, we ended up with 2 firsts, 2 seconds, a third, and just kept rolling. So I would hate to lose that. Did you happen to read the article on Yahoo by the Jory Epstein?
Yes.
It's really good. One for anyone who's convinced that Paul DePodesta was the thing holding this thing back, please read that article and disabuse yourself of that notion, because like they are the analytics element has not gone away. It's even more prevalent with all the stuff they're doing, like the live updated value assessment of picks and trades and all this stuff as it's happening. They've got a whole bunch of people like Andrew Healy, who I believe is the guy who came up with Cubase, which is obviously a big element in picking Baker Mayfield and all those things. Like they do all that stuff, but like they are getting really good at understanding how to run the draft. And then the other thing that I found really interesting was they don't put rounds on players, which a lot of teams do. A lot of teams talk
color dots, right?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of teams talk in terms of first round or second round, or basically how Dane Brugler does his guide, where it's first versus first and second versus second, all that stuff. The Browns don't do that, which is really interesting. So they figured some stuff out. I think they've gotten really smart. I think they've added some smart people to that. But they've got a really good thing going now. Hopefully they can pay it off, and we're not talking about picking in the top 10 again, but like still, I'm really happy with one, obviously the results of the draft, and obviously they have to prove it, but just the overall process. Barry's gotten it down these past 2 years, and so much of that has been having the 2 picks or the first round picks, moving down from 2 to 5 to get the 2 first round picks for this year, and then moving down from 6 to 9 to get more assets this year to then work the board.
Yeah, no, I agree with that completely. And I think it's also impressive that because we talked about a pre-draft, what was going to be the run, right? Was it going to be a wide receiver run? Was it going to be a tackle run? Like, how were you going to navigate that first round, and kind of like what was the smart play? Should we go wide receiver early because we thought there'd be a tackle late, or vice versa? I feel like Barry played that perfectly. He played the board to the point where he got an additional 3rd and a 5th round pick, and he got the tackle that they targeted from day one. Like that's fantastic. And I feel like he had such a grasp of what the rest of the league was doing. I don't know. I mean, maybe it's just like the high from, coming off such a good draft, and like we all thought it was going to be good, but like at least it exceeded my expectations. I'm fired up, man. You come into this offseason knowing that we need offensive line help. We need to help the quarterback with some receiving threats. And while I was initially disappointed because we got a couple of tight ends and neither one of them are particularly good blockers, which is what we were looking to pair with Fannin. I kind of dig the fact that we have athletes now and we have guys that are threats with the ball in their hand. And it's like, I love the emphasis on speed, on athleticism, on putting pressure on the defense, putting points on the board. Like we're legitimately going to come at you from all angles this year. We have a myriad of weapons. They come in all shapes and sizes. We're 3 deep at running back. If we can get anything positive at quarterback, I'm making plans for the second week of February in a parade, bro. I'm way too fired up. That's just where I'm at, man.
Ryan can block. He's just not long enough to be an inline guy. He's going to be a utility player. He's going to be Harold Fannon's backup, which they need anyway. Based on what I saw practice, the way they're going to use Harold Fannin, you need somebody else who can do some of that stuff in case Harold Fannin is hurt or tired or anything else. So I like Carson Ryan as a pick better than I like Joe Royer. We'll see how I feel about when I go through the tape. But yeah, Joe Royer is predominantly a receiving tight end, but Carson Ryan just does dirty work. Like he's a guy who just does a lot of stuff. So yeah, I'm interested to see that. Obviously, I would feel better about getting a real Y, but hell, I have no problem with the idea of one, either putting Austin Barber in there if he can do it and putting him as the Y tight end if they need to, or two, putting Austin Barber at left tackle and making Fano my tight end. I want to see it at least once because he's that athletic. But nevertheless, and Andrew Berry, I thought it was really interesting that Andrew Berry came out after the day 2 of the draft and said, I screwed it up. I misread the market. One, clearly he was feeling himself to acknowledge that.
Yeah.
He had to feel really good to be like, yep, screwed it up, misread it. But the other part of it is he didn't misread it. Like he misread it in terms of what maybe he misread it. He didn't misplay it. I'm glad he didn't get caught up in,
overextending himself for a blocking tight end.
Well, he bought, all these people are speculating on used minivans and paying a ton of money for these things. Just because other teams are doing it doesn't mean you have to. Bork Kirkner, or whatever the hell his name is, from Texas A&M, is 25 years old and went to college, was a classmate of Mike. He's still 25 years old and an unproductive tight end. It doesn't change anything. You're like, look, there are Ohio State honks who would have been really happy to get Kaczmarek by hook or by crook. I think even most of them would have been third round for him. That's a little bit rich. There was only 20-something picks between him and Max Clare. That's crazy to me. So rather than get caught up in that market, just lean into other stuff. Austin Barber, we'll see what he can do. I like the athleticism. I like the demeanor. He's a mean cuss. I like his colorful use of the F word. He's all about it. I would really very wanted Tyler Simpson.
What's your take on that, Pete? Because we've had a lot of Browns pro Tyler stuff today because of some of the stuff that's come out in interviews and everything like that. I have a take on that personally. I would love to get yours, and then I'll give you mine.
Do I think Ty Simpson would have been interesting to the Browns had he been available at 24? No, I don't. I think if Casey Concepcion was there, they basically admitted that they were really happy. They didn't think when the Rams Concepcion wasn't going to be there for them. I think they still would have run that card in and taken Casey Concepcion. If Ty Simpson is there at 39, I think that would have been the spot. Or Ty Simpson slips, they go past 24, and maybe at the second they hand in the card and go Casey Concepcion, they're on the phone going, how do I get up there? I mean, the Browns were interested enough in Tyler Simpson that they were interested in Ty Simpson. So that's enough. Where you want to put it. Obviously, they didn't think highly enough to take him at 6. They didn't think enough to take him at 9. He wasn't even part of the conversation.
I think that's the point, right? Because the article basically insinuated that, and Barry said as much, right? That he had been aware that he's going to the Rams for over a week. If the Browns wanted Ty Simpson, they would have been able to maneuver for Ty Simpson. I mean, realistically, you could have justified taking him at 9 if you really wanted him, and you had dropped down, you got an extra third and a fifth. Like, you could have justified that move if that was your guy.
Well,
I think
but
they
yeah,
like Ty
or just spend
Simpson.
it again. They
No,
could
of
have done
course.
they could have done the EJ Manuel thing where like the Bills traded on twice and then took EJ Manuel.
Yes. I think from me, I think you nailed it. I think Ty Simpson, just like Emmanuel McNeil Warren, was in the discussion for 24, right? But he was really slotted for 39. But he was probably in the discussion if things went a certain way. He would at least be in the discussion. I think Ty Simpson would have been in the discussion at 24, but he wasn't going to be the pick. Right. I think he would have been maybe the pick at 39 had he fallen to that point and the board fell a certain way.
I think they might have traded up. I think that would have been the move to if they liked him enough to discuss him at 24. Not that they were going to go to 25th pick by any stretch.
No, but like 39 to move up, I could see that. I could see that. That's way less of a, a investment as taking it. Look, the Rams took him at 13. If the Browns wanted him, you got to take him at either 6 or trade down and take him at 9. Like, that's it. And if they liked him enough that they were going to move up from 39 or they were going to take him at 24, then they would have figured out a way to make it work at 9. I don't personally see it. I think it's a player that they like, but they didn't need and they didn't want.
Just look at Andrew Berry's face talking in the press conference. He's doing just fine. Like, they're not sitting there going, man, what if we could have? No, they're like, I love what we got. And look, some of that may have been Monken being like, I like Ty Simpson, which, okay, maybe Barry did love Ty Simpson. That's the other part. Like, we don't know, but like, all I can say is I'm thrilled that the Rams took him because it was one of the moves that made sure that the Browns got Casey Concepcion. And like,
everybody had them taking Mekhi Lemon for
a minute. Or one of the weapons, and then you do the whole thing. Like the Jets taking, I didn't think they'd take Kenyon Sadiq. That was another pick, which is sort of like allowed the events to take place that they needed to, or the Cowboys. Not that they weren't going to necessarily take a receiver, maybe they should have take Malachi Lawrence. Like, great, loved it. Like, this was great. Like, and this is the other part. Like, the Browns had a really good process, but they also good fortune smiled on them. Teams did other things. I mean, I'm sure the San Francisco 49ers, or at least their fans, wish that Ty Simpson was there at 33, and they would have really traded down
and then taking Stribling.
Before taking Deshaun Stribling. But it is what it is. So, I think the Browns are very happy with what they got. Obviously, quarterback is a question. Like, I think the important thing, or at least maybe the encouraging thing from my standpoint, is that they did not go into the season going, well, we're good. We'll be just fine, and there's no problem. Clearly, they understand that, yes, maybe they're hoping that Shedeur Sanders can be good. They're hoping that something's going to click and this thing's going to get going. But, like, I think they're realistic that there's a real chance that they're going to be back at this in a year. Now, they'll coach up the kids. They'll see what they can figure it out. But, like, they're not ignorant to this fact. And so I'm glad they built up the rest of the offense. I'm glad they took away some of the excuses that those guys are getting. Because if these guys it's going to be real easy to see how this thing's going.
Well, and I like the transparency where, Andrew Berry comes out and says, like, we did talk about Ty. He was part of the discussion. I like that. That puts pressure on your quarterback room. That says, I'm not comfortable. Everybody knows you guys aren't good enough, and I'm looking for your replacement. You guys are lucky right now because it's just you. But next offseason, if you don't perform, you're going to be replaced. And that's just the reality of the situation. I mean, outside of Tayen Green, I think there's a world where he's the only quarterback that comes back next year. And that's a very realistic world.
Very possible. I mean, we'll see if, they have 4 quarterbacks. Presumably somebody's going to get there. I mean, it's not – I would think that the Browns will figure out a way that if – one, I think they're hoping Dylan Gabriel looks better. I think Dylan Gabriel will look better. there's a world where somebody gets, somebody on somebody else's team gets hurt and they go, hey, we give you something reasonable for than Gabriel. But I don't rule out the possibility that like he could also be cut and put back on their practice squad. Now that wouldn't look or feel very good, third round. But that's fine. Like, if that's what it takes. But like, I think people quickly forget how effective Dylan Gabriel looked in like preseason last year. He's going to carve people up this year in preseason. Now, whether that's going to be NFL starter good, I don't know, but he's right in that sweet spot of guys who just cook in preseason and then maybe aren't good enough for Sunday football. Like that's always one of those things.
Possible. That's possible.
I hope that's the case, that he plays really well and then garners some additional interest. Obviously, I'm really hopeful that the Browns get there and go, hey, here's a quick few adjustments and Tayen Green's really good. That would be great. I would love that. Now, I think the odds of that are more like a lottery ticket, but nevertheless, I hope like hell that kid can be viable, because if he can be on the active 46, they are going to use him, and they should. The idea of, for all these people who can't stand Kevin Stefanski, like you're good, like Todd Monken's going to do all the same crap. Yep. It's third and short. It's fourth and short. Put the 6'6", 230 kid who can run and run
Why
zone.
not?
You're inside the 10. Put the 6'6" kid run zone read or a quick RPO or something like that, instead of direct snap to Quinshon Judkins, which was effective. But Tayen Green's going to be a hell of a lot better for that stuff. I'm all about it because, like, one, I don't have a ton of confidence in the quarterback position at this point. I'd like to get there. And I look forward to Jody Cena, Anderson, whoever the hell else is throwing a fit, because the Browns took Shedeur Sanders off the field, and then Tayen Green scores 7 touchdowns this year because it's too difficult to stop that.
Yeah, look, they would be foolish to not explore a package of plays. Like the kid's a package, dude. Like of all the years that we've been doing the combine and tracking this athleticism, I mean, he's like one of one. He's a unicorn. It's crazy the skill set that he has. And the thing is, he's not a good quarterback. So you might as well bring him along slowly, but also sprinkle him in and take advantage of the athleticism. He's not going to be able to sit, to orchestrate a drive downfield and pick apart a defense and, be able to read defenses and make checks at the line. He's not going to be able to do all that. But if it's 3rd and goal and you bring him in on the 1-yard line, there's not a defense in the NFL that isn't going to be like, what the hell are we going to do? How are we going to stop this? He's Cam Newton's size.
I mean,
and if you look at the numbers, he's a better athlete. It's crazy.
If he can get there, he's Kaepernick. I mean, that's the prophecy where you're like, I see him now. He's Terrell Pryor. Yeah. Can he get to Colin Kaepernick? To be the question, because when you're that athletic and you're that dynamic, it makes reading a defense so much easier, because they are freaked out that you were going to take off and just run like a gazelle down the sideline, and you're not going to have an answer for it. So it's going to open things up and make it so much easier to read defense. That's why, some of these guys, when they get hurt and are like nagging ankle or something that slows them down, all of a sudden it gets real difficult to run an offense, because the defense like, I don't have to respect this as much. But in a package world, like you do enough of these things where like, he takes a direct snap and runs, or he does the read stuff with Judkins or whatever. But and all you just mix in a quick play action where suddenly he's throwing the ball down the field to a wide open Denzel Boston or something like that, or Jerry Jeudy, and you're like, oh, and you just keep adding layers to that. Like that's going to be really fun. Now, how quickly can he get there? Can he get there at all this year? I don't know, but like that's why I like that pick. My whole thing was don't take a quarterback before the 6th round or 5th round. I would have preferred to undrafted one, but the fact that they traded down from pick 160, I think it was, to get 172 and 182, and then they used that 182 to take this, made it essentially free money. Great, love it, do it. But yeah, if they can make that work, like all these people are like, make him a receiver. Why? I can just snap the ball to him and get him going right now. I don't have to worry about the other crap. Take out the middleman.
Well, and that's another thing that frustrates me too. And I mean, don't get me wrong. Like he's a phenomenal athlete. He's a big kid. He's got the wingspan, all that stuff. Like he's not a receiver though. And I can appreciate that he's big and he's fast and he's all that stuff, but there's so many subtle things in the receiver position. I don't think he's just gonna like walk on the field and be a better receiver than what we have. Like I don't think he's gonna be better than our guys. Like
If
I
he
get the
was,
transition, but
if
like
it was
it's
if it was that easy, why not just get the 6'5", 215-pound kid who ran a 4.3 out of Cincinnati who didn't produce crap in college? Like, if
thank
it's
you.
that easy,
Thank
just
you.
have that dude who's
And
actually a receiver.
that's all we've heard since we drafted him. Why even play him at quarterback? Just put him at receiver. He's Calvin Johnson. What are you doing?
Yeah, it's
It's easy from the
you
right
play in like some
perspective.
work
It's
league
all so
basketball. And
easy.
you picked a really tall guy, thinking, "Oh man, he must be pretty good at hoops." And you watch as he dribbles the ball off his shoe, and you're like, "Oh crap!" Or you see the athletic looking black guy and assume he's really good at everything, and you go, "Oh, that whole thing." Like, this is what they're doing with this kid, and go, "Oh, he must be good at all these other things." There's
Yep.
nothing to base on it. So I'll just snap it directly to him and let him run, and
Yep.
that's fine. Like, that's a problem enough. Like, just the ability to have him read a one defender and decide whether he's going to keep the ball or not is going to open things up for the running back and do some other stuff. Like, so one of the things I'm looking forward to with rookie minicamp, he's going to be, I mean, I think they're inviting somebody else there, but he's going to be the main attraction as far as quarterback goes. The ball's going to come out and look really, I mean, if Zagura's blowing up Deshaun Watson throwing the ball far,
Yeah, he's
Tayen
gonna
Green
lose
will
his
do
mind
that.
over Tayen Green.
Yeah, I mean, he's going to be a giant out there, but like when he takes off, you're going to be blown away by his speed. I mean, Daniel Jeremiah talked about it on the draft. He's like, every 2 steps is 5 yards. That's really difficult to deal. That was the thing that made Terrell Pryor so frustrating, is like, he didn't look like he was moving fast, and then you realize how long his strides were, and you're like, oh my god, he's gone.
Yeah. Yeah, they just cover ground. It's it's look, I think that's my favorite part of that pick is like the fan in me knows. I know it's gonna come down to most likely Deshaun and Shador in the quarterback race. But I know the second half of every preseason game is going to be fun to watch, Pete. Like that's where I'm at right
I
now.
feel,
If,
listen, I feel
if nothing
if it,
else, this 6th round pick brought us enjoyment for the second half of 3 preseason games. I'm good with that.
no,
I'm absolutely
what
okay.
I'm afraid of, and God, I hope Deshaun Watson plays in none of the preseason games. I hope Shador, I mean, if he's the starter, I hope he doesn't play any of the preseason games. But
Yeah.
if let's say Shador plays like, the first half, I feel awful for what's going to be done to Dylan Gabriel. Like, people are going to boo him and go, "Give us the freak, give us Taylor Green." Like, this poor kid, and he can be like good. He's like moving the ball and doing good stuff, and they're still going to be
No.
like, "Give me
He's
Taylor Green, put the giant in."
look, Dylan has been just jobbed from the start because he came in, but then Shador came in right after, and it's like all that star power, all that hype, all that hoopla. Like he's literally he's been cast aside for the entirety of his time in Cleveland, and it's kind of a shame, but
No, that's why I'm rooting for him.
Yeah.
I'm genuinely rooting for Dylan Gabriel. I'm tired of hearing how short he is. I'm sure he is too. I hope he put in the work to figure out some tools to like be ready to get the ball out. And I'm hoping he's sitting there going, "Hey man, this is a lot more like when I was at Oregon or Oklahoma, where I've suddenly got some weapons and the blocking, and maybe I can get this thing going." I hope he can. Like,
Well,
great. I mean, I still don't think it's going to translate into starter, but like, I hope
yeah.
for kid's sake, he's awesome.
Well, that's been my whole thing because like you, I don't necessarily think that he translates to a starter period, let alone like a long-term like franchise level starter. But like we know he can play, right? And I feel like a player like him and what his skill is, his superpower is up here. And no rookie is going to walk onto the field and have the mental side of the game as their superpower. So you knew he was always going to take a little bit of time. So I expect him to be much better this year. And I expect him to have a long NFL career. Like I feel like I get a little overly critical of him just because of how I feel about him as a starter. He's a worthy NFL player. He's a good quarterback. He's just physically not equipped to be great. He's just not. And that's okay. Not everybody is.
Right. They may not have one of those in the quarterback position. I mean, that's just maybe where they're at. I
Yeah.
hope one of them that's not named Deshaun Watson will come out and be like impressive, and we'll sit there and go, oh man, like maybe Shador's suddenly going to look like it was at Colorado, where he's throwing the ball around. He's got all these weapons, and it looks great because he can genuinely throw the ball.
Yeah.
Hopefully he got a little bit wiser in terms of reading defenses. Hopefully, he got a little bit. His footwork got cleaned up a little bit, which again, I saw one practice. It did look like he's been working on it. So I'm hoping that that's something where we're going to, as we keep going, that we're going to notice that, hey, Shador's footwork is pretty good, because I think that would help him take a big step forward. If he's got like NFL footwork and he's got like, he basically spent the offseason goes, screw everybody. I'm going to learn how to read this stuff and really get good at it. And he did. Then like, okay, now I'm interested because the throwing ability he has is real. He can put the ball in some spots. He has all the tools. He knows how to throw. He knows the right tool for the job. And like Denzel Boston, like I could see Denzel Boston absolutely loving catching the ball Shador because he will put that thing up there on the alley-oop. He can throw the ball at a spot where Casey Concepcion can catch it and keep running. Jerry Jeudy, like when he's been right with Jerry Jeudy, it's been good. It's just now he's got to be consistent. He's got to be faster on it. Now the other part is he's not. One, it gets a little bit easier because he's got better athletes. It also gets faster because he's got better athletes.
Yeah. So here's my thing with Shador, because I'm a Shador guy. I've wanted since, very, very early last year. I wanted this to ultimately happen. I wanted him to wind up starting to close out the year. And then I was hoping that he would be unchallenged and they would just like give him the job and he would go into the offseason with all the reps and everything like that. But that's not the case. No biggie, whatever. He's still going to get this opportunity. But I'm caught in between because I would say I have this preconceived notion from going into last year that physically Shador isn't quite as good as we want our franchise quarterback to ultimately be. And when I mean as good, I mean physically talented. Like we want a little more size. We want a little more athleticism, maybe a little bit stronger arm, that sort of thing, right? But I will say, watching him play last year on an NFL field, it didn't seem like he was lacking any physical ability. It just seemed like he needed to speed up the mental side of things. He needed to get a lot better from the technical standpoint in order to really be a guy. So I feel like if he does take those small mental leaps, Pete, I feel like we're going to have a conversation. Like legitimately, because the defense is good enough that if you get enough from Shador, you can take yourself out of the I'm just going to draft whatever quarterback's available, because this defense is good enough. We lost 4 games by less than 1 score after winning 5 with the worst offense in football. It's not impossible to think that moderately good quarterback play puts this team in the 8, 9, 10 win territory. It's not crazy to say that.
Well, I'll say the Shore is slow, and teams started to figure out how he was running with the ball, and it made it very difficult at the end of the season. So he's got to sort of deal with that.
Yeah.
However, as far as the arm stuff goes, if he made those improvements with footwork, he's going to have more arm. And I think he's also going to have more arm, not because like there's some magical thing to it, but like you get, in terms of his throwing motion, some of the other stuff, I imagine they're having him work on. It will probably help him
clean it up.
Yeah, make it even better. He didn't have an elite arm by any stretch. It was pretty good. I think he can get. Let's say he had like a B- arm last year. I think he can get it to a B or a B+ if he does the other things correct in terms of his feet and some of the other stuff, which would be more than adequate for what they need to do. I think he has the capacity to surprise you with some of the stuff. Obviously, the Isaiah Bond pass he made against the Raiders was a good example. Like there are times you're just like, whoa, I didn't see that coming. But it's his feet. It's so much of it his feet. If he gets there where he's in the position to make the throws, he's ready to go, and he sees it. Yeah, there's a world where he could really take off, and with better offense and help and all these other things, hopefully a better running game as a result of all these other things, it's going to be easier for him, hopefully.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I mean, at the end of the day, there's so many different things coming together for this year. The new offensive system, we're going to have 5 new starters on the offensive line. We're going to have a new receiving core. Like there's so many things that they have to mesh together, but it's like, for the first time, not only do you see a plan, do you see a vision, do you see a direction that they're taking this team, but I look at this team and I'm not like, oh man, I hope Shador's the guy, or I hope Deshaun, or I hope Dylan, this, that, or the other. I'm looking at it like, if they're not, somebody's going to get lucky next year. There's going to be a good quarterback that steps into a position of a team with low expectations, but talent littered throughout that offense and a dynamite defense behind them. You know, like it's just like it's like almost a different thought. Like I'm not like, if Shador can catch lightning in a bottle. It's I hope Shador catches lightning in a bottle, but if not, I feel great. I feel so good about this depth chart right now and the direction that they're heading.
Well, there's still stuff that I would like them to be able to do, and there are already positions where I'm earmarking them for next year's draft. That they need to address. Having said that, one, we'll see. The Simpson softball episode is already playing out. Sorsby is potentially going to, we'll see. He may miss this season at Texas Tech.
So we'll talk about that one later. I've got some thoughts on that one.
So I'm waiting for a weird set of circumstances to befall all these really talented quarterback prospects. Because I've watched, a number of people talk about the draft next year, like the walk-on, whatever the guys who got let go by PFF and went back to their thing. It was always their YouTube channel talking about the draft. And they're really excited about the quarterback class. Hopefully we are in a position where, yes, they're going to have some stuff they're going to want in next year's offseason, more of potentially corner, defensive end. We'll see. I may be sitting here going, still want right guard, but hopefully we are ultimately sitting here going quarterback away. And I mean, because even when you're not good, as Drake May showed, and obviously he's really, really good, everybody is a quarterback away. Yep. So if the Browns would be in a really good spot, I've seen, not that I care about Dynasty, but I've casually noticed people who talk about Dynasty are basically saying, bet on whichever team between the Browns and the Jets gets a quarterback, they're going to take off. So it's there for them. Hopefully they don't, deal with a whole bunch of injuries. Hopefully these guys play the way we hope they can. And if they can, then they're going to be really, really well set up for the future.
So I wanted to, speaking of the future and speaking of quarterbacks in next year's draft, and we'll go back to, Browns. And I also want to talk about the rest of the AFC North in the draft that they had. But for next year for quarterbacks, right? Let me ask you something. If Arch Manning declares for the draft, like if you ask me, he's the number one pick.
Maybe
it's you.
I've at least seen conversation that entertains he's not.
So I refuse to believe that there's an NFL general manager that will skip over a Manning.
That's going to be tough.
That's my argument. I get it. If you want to look at film and be like, oh, this, that, or the other, this guy's more clean with this, or this guy has that, or like, you can say all you want.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like that is the one, like, even if he falls flat and he's the worst quarterback ever, that general manager is going to say, what do you want? He's the first Manning that wasn't a Hall of Famer. What the hell do you want me to do?
Well, not just GM. It's not going to be just the GM. Ownership's going to be like, we have to take the Manning. Yeah, I think is
NFL royalty.
Yes. But I have at least seen one place where they project Darian Mensah to be the guy because Miami's just going to be so good. What is interesting though?
Isn't Mensah like 6 foot 200 pounds?
No, he's a big kid. He's a nice size kid.
Is he bigger? I thought he was small.
No, I see people projecting Julian Sand going top 5, even though he's like 190 pounds.
Yeah.
Because they refuse to ignore how fit he has his pass. Now I have questions for that. What is interesting is should be notable for you. Not one draft I've seen has Jake Mayob in the first round. So that's going to be really interesting that they have all these quarterbacks. He's not one of them. I've still seen Sellers in there. I've still seen these other guys. But not one with Mayob. So I'm very curious to see what he does in this coming year. But that's how many quarterbacks there are. The Messnamaker kid is another one. Like Hoover. Not that I've seen him mentioned in the first round either, but like the amount of guys that are going to be around and interesting, they could really, really be good. Dante Moore, obviously, Dante Moore in some ways has to feel like he's in the pole position because he's played a lot of football and he's been really good. This will be his third full year as a starter, which is always big for me. And we'll see. Like, maybe it will depend on the weaponry he had. The one thing that sort of get lost in Oregon is like, for as good as they are, Kenyon Sadiq, he went in the first round, but he was not a dominant weapon for Oregon. Like their best receiver was Evan Stewart, who I think got drafted in round 6 or 7. And obviously they have the former Alabama transfer who basically did nothing last year. I think he was hurt. And they've got another tight end this year, but he's another one where I'm sort of curious to see how that plays out. But yeah, there are a lot of guys that's going to make this interesting. And obviously some of these guys could end up staying in school and doing the whole thing, or having weird, mysterious things befall them out of nowhere, like Sorsby.
So the name is escaping me, but I have a buddy of mine that has been pushing that the tight end at Oregon is actually better than Sadiq and is going to be a better prospect next year, and is just a better player overall.
Yep, and he's not even the best tight end prospect next year. Jamari Johnson's the kid. The guy everybody's freaking out about is the kid at LSU.
Yeah.
And
tall kid, right? 6'7"?
6'7", 240. He's enormous. And he's going to be the big deal, especially if like the Jags are, or some of these other teams are picking near the top of the draft. Tayen Green, 6'7", 240, and runs well and does all these other stuff. So if you're sitting there taking Nate Borkercher I mean, maybe this kid will go number 1 overall. Guy only knows.
Dragging Gladstone. Leave that kid alone. He's just having fun.
So, according to him, they had 11 guys they wanted, and they had 11 guys they wanted, and they got 10 of them. So they're going to be great, and it's going to be awesome. And he's definitely not the Joker, and Andrew Berry definitely did not cause him to become it.
Well, good. I'm glad that all's well in Jacksonville, because I'll tell you that draft list looks a little rough, Pete. We were legitimately giggling through Friday and Saturday at the Jacksonville. All right, well, hold on. Let's focus back on the AFC North. Let's talk about our enemies real quick, because this is like the annoying part of the draft. I feel like the division did pretty well. And look, people are piling on Pittsburgh, and rightfully so in certain scenarios. The Mekhi Lemon thing doesn't look good, but you and I both agree Max Ahanacher is a stud. And if that was their fallback option after getting their pick stolen from them, then they're the luckiest SOBs I know, because I feel like that's a great pick, and I'm super annoyed by that pick.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting for 2 points. One, obviously, you asked me what was my worst nightmare, and it was Mekhi Lemon to anyone else in the AFC North, and we came that close. Ahanacher is really good, but the fact that they didn't go, okay, we'll take Casey Concepcion,
way better. Yeah,
now,
hell yeah.
I would have been fine with just taking Ahanacher and being like, okay, but obviously that would have had a cascading effect. If Denzel Boston is at 39, then I'm still sitting there going, we need a number 1 receiver, and then they probably don't take Austin Barber. The whole thing gets a little wonky. So there's a whole lot of things. But yes, I'm not happy to see Max Ahanacher on Pittsburgh Steelers. He is a nasty SOB that is super athletic. He's going to step in. I'm very curious. I presume they're going to move him to left tackle and just say, we're going to figure this thing out.
Yeah.
They've got basically what you want up front, which is bigger, nasty dudes who want to get after people. Now, I'm not entirely sure. Never mind. They got Jennings Dunker. Maybe they could put him at left guard to handle that spot. But they've got I don't say homeless, but blue collar, middle class Wyatt Teller at right guard in McCormick. They've got a pretty talented center. They've got Fatano at right tackle. Max Ahanacher could finish that line off and make them really good.
Yeah.
They've got backs that look like they should be good. They've got more weapons, so they should have more space. No, I'm not happy about that. I was sort of particularly looking through it as at a Browns lens, Jeremy Bernard was not for me.
Yeah.
I do
He's
like
tough,
him in
bro.
the scenario. I like him in the situation he's being placed in. Now, I still think it's a little rich to take him for that, to be the number 3 option,
Yeah.
but he's going to a place where he's going to be the number 3 option. I think it's or lower. And I think he's going to be annoying from that standpoint, because you're sitting there going, oh, wait, well, we got to take care of DK Metcalf. We've got to take care of Michael Pittman. We've got to deal with, the big tight end. We've got Darnell Williams. We've got to deal with the smaller, the slightly smaller, but still good tight end that I presume they're actually going to use now in Freiermuth. And all of a sudden, you got this dude who's running around who can take manufactured touches, can get the ball out of the backfield in space and run.
Yeah, and he's put together. He's 6'2", 205 pounds. Like, that's, yeah.
So who's your fifth defender that now has to take care of this kid? Is like, okay, that's not great. Like, that's a tough place to be in. And presumably they're going to get Aaron Rodgers back in some form or fashion. Which
what do you make about what we heard today about Pittsburgh kind of amping up the heat on him, which I love. And
I don't know if it's doing anything, because like they can't match the offer of I'm retiring, if that's ultimately
of course, but that also says, blank or get off the pot, so to speak. Like, you're not going anywhere else. You're either coming to Pittsburgh or you're not playing football.
Yeah. I mean, I think that was the case. I don't think anybody else was interested.
Yeah,
like his best hope was Minnesota, and they obviously got Kyler Murray. So there's nowhere for him to go. So from that standpoint, I don't really think it matters. But like, he's got more weapons to distribute the ball, and I'm super irritated that they got Eli Heidenreich, because he's going to do the things that they did last year with
Gainwell.
With Gainwell, which is to throw him the ball and let him do stuff. And if Eli Heidenreich is good, like he looked like he can be, he's going to be annoying. So, what's weird is like Pittsburgh has to move on in terms of ultimately the quarterback position, but they got 2 players in Jeremy Bernard and Eli Heidenreich who I think cater really well to Aaron Rodgers, and that is also annoying.
Yeah. Well, and that's the whole thing. It's like, if Rodgers comes back, Pittsburgh is probably going to be pretty tough. He just is. Like, he's good enough, and he has a high enough floor as a quarterback that if that team stays healthy, they're going to be tough. I mean, between adding Pittman for what, a 6th-round pick, right? Ultimately, like a pick swap, no less. Look, DK 6'4", he's 6'5". Jeremy Bernard's a big kid. They got a couple of big, athletic, talented tight ends. Like, Pittsburgh, and as you pointed out, the offensive line now. The offensive line's tough. It's not a problem. It's not an issue that they're going to be worried about. And if Max Honicher is the type of player that we think he's potentially going to be, then like, they're sitting pretty. If they figure out quarterback, it's a long-term problem.
They are, but David Bailey, who he did well against, is not Myles Garrett. And so if he's a left tackle, that's when he gets to see twice. So we'll see how that component goes. But yeah, they can they're going to be able to run the football, I think, consistently because of the space they're able to create, because they have more threats, because of all these things. So I'm genuinely curious to see how that part goes. Now, the flip side of that is they have questions on defense, and I think they did really well in free agency with some of those things. Anyway, Jamel Dean is good. They got the kid. Who'd they get at safety? The kid from Chicago, Jaquan Brisker.
Yeah, Brisker's good.
They brought in Jonathan Franklin Myers. Is that who it is on the defensive line, which I think is going to be interesting. If that fixes their issues there, that's going to be problematic, but I'm not entirely 100% they did, but I just think they've done really, really well. Now, the one pick I don't think is going to end up being that impactful, but we'll see, because he's basically just Mason Rudolph again, except even less polished, is Drew Aller, or Aller, or however the hell Michael Keefe wants to pronounce it. To me, that, I'm sure I will regret saying this at some point when he's now throwing the ball for 4,000 yards and everything else. I would rather get Tayen Green in round 6 than take Drew Aller in round 3.
Yeah. And look, I get that. I don't think any Cleveland fan is legitimately worried about Drew Aller outside of the typical only in Cleveland, this would only happen to us type of fear that we have built into the back of our brains about stuff like this. Um, what I find very interesting is if Will Howard, if Aaron Rodgers does not report to camp and does not come to Pittsburgh, like, I mean, that's a very interesting, fascinating situation, right? Because
Mhm.
like you think about it, they're set. They don't need to bring in anybody. They got Mason Rudolph. They have Will Howard that they had, for a year in the system. They
Mhm.
drafted Drew Alar. I feel like if Aaron doesn't come, like that's who they're gonna roll with, and that's interesting, man.
Either that or they just say screw it and we'll kidnap somebody and take a quarterback from somewhere else. Like
Yeah, but you can't do that, Pete. Otherwise, we'd have done that. We'd have done that 10 times over.
well, that's another team that all of a sudden maybe Jacoby Brissett for a third round pick doesn't look so bad.
Yeah,
And
you're not wrong.
that like I think he'd be good there. Like it's annoying. Like, and I don't want to oversell Jacoby Brissett. Like he's not a Pro Bowl quarterback or he's stretched, but he is a professional quarterback who can lead an
He's a
offense.
better quarterback than Kyler Murray. I'll
Yeah.
say it right now. He's not the athlete that Kyler is. He's a way better quarterback.
Now I hate this for every number of reasons, not the least of which I really like Jacoby and would hate to hate him, but I will do it. Um, but yeah, I mean, like I could see that being the panic button where they just go, well, screw it, we're going to go get a quarterback that we know can play if that's the price, or maybe they negotiate it down or do some sort of pick swap thing. I could see them just saying, screw it, we'll get Jacoby Brissett and we'll play with this. Now, maybe they like Will Howard more than they're letting on. They could end up cutting Mason Rudolph. Presumably, they're going to move on from Mason Rudolph. Uh, the way things are going, if Aaron Rodgers comes back or he doesn't, I don't see why they would keep him at this point.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's the other part of this. You know, I'm very curious to see what they do. I assume Aaron Rodgers will eventually come back because he's annoying and that's what he does.
All right, let me ask you this. We'll take the Browns out of the equation because we all know what the answer is going to be with that. But out of the Baltimore Ravens, the Cincinnati Bengals, and the Pittsburgh Steelers, who had the best draft? And when I say that, I want you to include Dexter Lawrence as the 10th pick with Cincinnati's draft.
I think I think Cincinnati did better. Well, that's tough because
It is. They all did pretty good.
part of what I think Cincinnati did really well is because they kept taking players I wanted. So maybe that's influencing me. Like the only pick I didn't get was I mean, they have this obligatory need to draft somebody from Georgia, and they took what I think was a wild reach with the receiver they got from Georgia.
Yeah.
But I liked everything else they did. I like Cassius Howell. I know exactly what he's going to do. He feels obviously there's a question of do you want to chase that need, but they needed they need pass rush. They needed somebody, and that's all they're going to do. That's seemingly he's going to deliver. He's going to bring speed elements, which can be really annoying to deal with. They drafted multiple interior offensive line. They got Brian Parker the second. Which center did they get? Did they get Burton? No, that was the Green Bay. Which center did they take?
That's a good question. I'll find that in just a second.
But I think they also did well late in the draft, and I don't remember who they took, but I remember just liking everything they did other than the Georgia kid. And obviously, yeah, to me, Dexter Lawrence changes the balance of power in the AFC North. I think the Bengals are the favorite. Doesn't mean they're going to win, but I think they are just better.
Bengals got Brian Parker, and then the fourth round they took Connor Lew out of Auburn.
Okay, that's the one, and they have the ability to do that. I think I'd be very curious to see how long it takes for him to get on the field, because I think the timeline it sounds like it's going to take wasn't realistic for the Browns.
Yeah.
And I think that's partly illustrated by Brian Parker. Like, I think they got somebody who can theoretically now at center if they need him to. And then when Connor Lew comes back, Brian Parker can theoretically move out to guard.
Yeah, the Bengals took Jack Endries too, who we had talked about from
Yeah,
Texas.
I mean,
yeah.
I really like the 7th round tight ends teams took.
Yeah.
Jack Endries fits really well for what the Bengals have done because they've had guys that are not great blockers, and with Endries, he's got to grow his body, but like are effective receivers and give you a big body guy in the middle of the field with a group that has Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. Like, and those guys have been annoying. And you've seen Mike Gesicki did really well there because he's just a big target who can work the middle of the field, and everybody's worried about everybody else, and they take their eyes off this guy, and it's just like, okay, easy dink and dunk. We'll see if injuries can pay off now. That puts the writing on the wall for the kid that they drafted either 2 years ago that all these people were calling a steal, despite the fact his knees were made of paper mache, and I think he's hurt his knees again. The kid out of Iowa, I think the writing's on the wall there that they're moving on from him, which is fine. But yeah, I think the Bengals did really well. I think the Steelers are probably better off in terms of they addressed more premium positions, which is certainly always going to give you a little bit of a lean. But I thought the Bengals did really well overall.
Yeah, no, me too. And again, it's like a theme. The whole division did well.
Eric All is the kid that they drafted who's never played because he's just been hurt. I think he looked really good in the preseason and then just nothing because he was hurt.
Yeah, they still have Drew Sample, Gesicki, obviously. They had
so why.
I'll tell you what, I think Noah Fant's a nice player. Like, I feel like he can't stick anywhere, and I find that to be very surprising. Like, he's a good athlete. He's a big kid. He's a solid blocker, but he bounces. He's been on like 5 teams now.
Is he still out there?
I know he signed with somebody. I know.
Saints apparently.
Yeah. But yeah, he was on my tight end list entering the offseason. And I'm still holding out hope to bring in Njoku. I was sad to see Emerson sign with the Saints today. That kind of bummed me out.
I looked at their depth chart and went, yep, I get it.
Yeah.
They're not good.
Yeah, slim pickings there for sure. I'm surprised that the Browns, because I feel like if we wanted him back, we could have put together something. I don't know why both sides cooled on each other. I'm very surprised by that.
Which one?
With Emerson in Cleveland.
He wants to start. I mean, he wants to play. That's the big thing. He wants to get a chance to start. He wants to get a chance to prove himself and then earn the deal. Yeah. And his thinking is, if I'm on the bench, I'm not going to get squat. So,
and that's the thing. They wouldn't move Denzel or Tyson inside to accommodate.
They're not.
Yeah.
They have to deal with me. I'd go yell at them if they did that. But no. I mean, he's an outside press corner.
Yeah.
He's got a very specific skill set. And there's a world where he plays for the Saints and the Browns sign him next year and they go, hey, you're our guy for after Denzel Ward. Yeah. I mean, that's not impossible, but from his standpoint, Saints corners are not good. So I get it. I would have liked to have had him back as that third corner and felt really good about our depth. And then try to sell him an idea. Listen, man, Denzel's going to miss 4 games, so you're going to get to play at least that.
Yeah, you're going to play.
He's got a shot to go win a job, and then get a. If he plays well, he's going to get a big contract. So it makes all the sense in the world for him.
What would you point to on the roster that you would consider unfinished business? That you would consider an issue that needs to be addressed before we line up in preseason week 1?
Edge is an opportunity, certainly. Corner is a glaring issue. I think tight end continues to be a question mark. I mean, they're going to look at these guys and see what they can do. But that's certainly something that is sort of unfinished. I mean, obviously, look, I was genuinely surprised that the Saints signed Emerson now. Generally, there's a little bit of a
lull.
Well, everybody sort of wants to go look at their new toys first and then figure out where they're at. Now, clearly the Saints may have gone in this draft thinking we might draft a starting corner and then didn't, and then opted to said right after the draft, we know we need this thing, so we're going to do it and we're going to pay him enough to meet his demand. But I assumed in the case of the Browns, they wanted to go look at these other dudes, see what they've got and see if any of them are interesting. I'm particularly interested in Michael Coates from West Virginia. I think everything matches up with things that would match for a potential fit. Obviously, I was a little surprised they didn't draft corner, but like we've seen them do this thing where they sort of don't draft something, clearly prescribe a hole to attract what they think are good fits for what they want to do with undrafted free agents, and get guys that ultimately can make a roster. So all of the positions I just laid out, other than tight end, I don't know that they got anybody particularly interesting at tight end. They're bringing a guy out from Bowling Green who's productive, but like
The big kid, right? Or is he more of a receiver?
he's more Harold Fannin,
Yeah.
just obviously nowhere near as good. But they got Logan Fano, they got Tyreek Sapp, who's interesting. He's raw as hell. He's just a bully.
Yeah.
Just beat people up. Really powerful. They got a couple corners. And then they got a couple guys who I think are going to try out for fullback, or at least one of them I think is going to try out for fullback. Obviously, they signed a real fullback too.
Yeah. Who's that? Michael Burton, right?
Yes. Now he's in year 12.
Yeah.
So I don't know how long that's going to last. I'm not sitting here going, oh, he's the answer, but they got a fullback.
Yeah.
But I'm very interested in the kid they got at SMU by way of UCLA.
TJ Harden.
Yes. I sort of went in and looked at SMU stuff, and I'm sort of like, all right, whatever. And I didn't really care. I was like, okay, they got a running back. Sure, they want to see if one of these guys surprises them. And then I realized and went back, he was the TJ Harden who was at UCLA. And at UCLA, he was a different dude than he was at SMU. At UCLA in 2024, UCLA had one of the most garbage passing attacks in the country. They were led by a tight end named Maliki Matavo, who I was interested in as a draft pick because he was athletic and he was huge, like 6'6", 263. He led the team 506 receiving yards and 2 touchdowns. Number 2 on that list, TJ Harden, 368 receiving yards and a touchdown as a running back. He caught 40 passes that year. And you watch him and you sit there and go, holy crap, like he's good at this.
Yeah.
He caught incidentally, when Carson Ryan was also at UCLA, he caught 19 more passes the year before for 142 yards. So as a situational receiver, he's really good. He also happens to be 6 foot, 220 pounds. And when people run into him, they tend to bounce off. So whether or not the Browns are going to fatten him up or whatever, but if he can block, he gives you vibes like an old school West Coast fullback where you're just like, yep, you come in here and block it every so often. We dump a ball out to you in the flat. He's a natural pass catcher and you just run. So that's my sneaky
it's
fullback.
Intriguing.
Carson Ryan, I guess, theoretically could as well, though. Again, when I see these guys, I'm sitting here going, maybe that's been the plan the whole time. And this was always what I thought was the most reasonable way to do this.
Yeah.
Obviously, the Steelers got Nowakowski, which is annoying because somehow that guy will do something against the Browns, like his brother, like Cam Hayward's brother did, that kills them at some point. But like, I'm a big fan of take running backs out of college that were reasonable, big, can do the fullback thing, and just do that. And you find the right guy, and you can do those things. Like everybody got caught up, and Pat Card would have been great. It's 300 pounds and all this other stuff. But if you can find a real fullback, great. Take a running back who can do it. Like, obviously, this is a huge leap, but like, it sort of dawns on you. Well, that's sort of the Roger Craig outlet. Now, Roger Craig was obviously substantially better than even in college than TJ Harden, and they originally did not. They originally had him as a fullback before he became Roger Craig. But nevertheless, that is the type of profile that I would sit there and go, okay, that's really interesting as a fullback.
The running back from Mississippi State that we signed as well has nice wiggle to him. I like that kid. He's got a nice little burst to his game. His name's escaping me right now.
Yeah, it's I'll find it, but like I'm hoping that the Browns are doing the thing, Devon Booth.
Yeah.
I hope they're doing the thing, and he caught the ball reasonably well at Mississippi State as well. Not nearly as prolific, but he caught 6 touchdowns in the past 2 seasons. That they're trying to fill out, a whole team and do that thing where it looks good and you've got a real defense for the Taylor Green to throw against or whoever's out there, and you got more real football for these guys to go against. I thought that was really, really smart last year, and I hope they carry that over. But they've got a lot of tryout guys coming. I don't know if it's as many, but I would love them to do the thing that I would do that every year.
I'm pretty sure Monken already confirmed that they're going to do it. Like he's going to do the separate fields and the separate practices, as many reps as possible for all these guys.
Well, I thought that was just in terms of the 4 quarterbacks, which everybody's going to hate, even though I thought it was really smart.
Yeah. But no, that's one of the things they alluded to.
Yeah, hopefully. That's another thing. That was really smart. I don't know why people were against this.
And having those quarterbacks allows you the ability to do it.
How can they possibly have 4 quarterbacks when everybody's getting reps? It's like,
well, how could it possibly be an even competition, Pete? That's all that matters, is that it's even.
Well, as long as Shrews get first team, nobody will care about fairness for anyone else. So look, I'm all about that. Like Tayen Green getting reps on another field, awesome, love it. Get him all the reps he can get. As much as him standing there looking tall is only going to help him so much.
Well, and that's the thing too. And again, like I stress, like I'm a Shedeur guy. I want Shedeur to get every opportunity possible. I think Shedeur has the potential to be a long-term starter at the position for somebody eventually. I think all of those things. But I also don't think enough of the quarterback room in terms of what they've proven and what they offer right this second. That, like, hell yeah. If Tayen Green gets some reps at some point this year, hell yeah, why not? Why not? If somebody doesn't absolutely grab the job by the throat, hell yeah. Rotate these guys for all I care. I don't care.
Well, if certain people had their way and the Browns got Jeremiah Love, hell, they would at least be set up to run the wing T at that point.
Yes.
We at least have the personnel to do it now. But yeah, I mean, like, he's got the capacity to be a dynamic player. So, and look, at the end of the day, like, the Browns should be doing whatever they can do to win a football game. If that's using Tayen Green, if that's using whoever, find a way. And with the one caveat being not Deshaun Watson for me, but I suspect they don't care that I think that, but nevertheless.
Well, speaking of Jeremiah Love and that whole convo, I did hear that certain person talking about how Quinshon Judkins leaves a little bit desired as a receiver. Like, he threw that little jab in there. Like, this is why I wanted Jeremiah Love. I was like, come on, man.
Well, like,
and I don't even think he's a bad receiver.
No, well, the thing was,
showed that he has potential to do more. And
the thing was, we got to the point, unfortunately, before he broke his damn leg, where, like, all of a sudden it got to a point where they felt really good about him as receiver, and he was taking pressure off Harold Fannin, and they were doing things like Harold Fannin was like a decoy to create space for Quinshon Judkins to get the ball, and he was like really good, and they had this real nice 1-2 combination thing going in the middle of the field, which is really good. Quinshon Judkins can catch the damn ball. Like,
yes, he can.
Maybe he's not as dynamic as Jeremiah Love, but I don't need to use 6th pick overall to get a little bit better receiving thing, and that doesn't, which ignores the fact that Dylan Sampson is a good receiving back.
Yep.
But yeah, like, Quinshon Judkins is good at that stuff. Like, I think people seem to forget how, like, the national championship, it was, yes, he ran the ball and had obviously 100 yards in that big long run, but he was a problem as a receiver against Notre Dame in that game as well.
Yeah. Well, and look, he's got big playability. I was arguing with somebody the other day, and they were arguing on behalf of Jeremiah Love, basically saying that, like, you don't get enough big play potential from Quinshon. I'm like, what are you talking about? Really he took several. He took several to the house. Like, that was the only way we could score, is if he popped a 50+ yarder.
Yeah,
I mean, he had a string of long runs, like, to start his season.
Yeah, and then what happened?
Guy.
Yeah, then he did, and he beat the Packers, and then all of a sudden everybody's like, "Nope, we're done with this," and put 8 guys in the box. Said that's the end of this. We're gonna kick your ass every play, which is what happened. So now, like, everything they've done offensively with this draft, with the linemen they brought in, and everything else, the happiest guy out there who's bouncing around in practice and looks like he would be just fine
Yeah.
has to be Quinshon Judkins and
Yep.
Dylan Sampson. Like Dylan Sampson, a close second. Like
I don't want to interrupt you. I just want to address this. Willie, we agree. We absolutely agree. We're just
I
talking
don't,
hypotheticals right now.
I don't agree.
Well,
I think
first
it'd
of
be
all,
good.
if it's not like a gadget play to try to convert a short yardage situation, Pete.
That's what he's talking about. If
No,
he's on the field, if he's on the field at all,
yeah,
it's 4th and 2. I'm snapping the ball to Tayen Green, and he can do stuff with it.
yes, I agree with that, but that's not what Willie's talking about. Willie's like me; he's a Shador guy. He knows, and if Taylor Green is on the field starting, then things went wrong, and I
Well,
agree.
that
I
yes,
agree with that
but
completely.
he's the
We're
field.
certainly not calling for him to start. We're just saying, in the event of. That's all. That's all. I don't want any misconstrued stuff.
But no, like there might not be a player I'm more excited to see in year 2 than the 2 running backs.
Yeah,
based on what's and I'll throw Raheem Sanders in there too, because Raheem Sanders with no blocking was pretty effective
yes,
in
he
2
was.
seconds. So I think the running back room is going to be significantly better this year, as so long as the offensive line delivers. But just by having space, just take defenses out of the box. Like, I don't know how many times Quinshon Judkins ever saw a light box. Did he ever see a light box? Like, it's the first time he walks out there in the field and he sees 2 backers in the box and goes, "What the hell is this?"
Yep. But we have the statistic. They were hit in the backfield on over 50% of the carries. Like, I want to say, when Judkins had like 600 yards rushing, he had 800 yards after contact. Like, it's crazy. It's absolutely crazy.
Yards after contact, all of them.
But I look, I'm telling you right now, I'm a big Judkins guy. I think he's fantastic. I think because of the injury, we've forgotten just how impactful he was and how impressive physically he is. But Pete, I'm telling you right now, if there's a player on this roster I'm excited for, it's Dylan Sampson.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think anybody's going to benefit more from the infusion of talent and the now available space because of what we're going to be able to do offensively than Dylan Sampson. And not to mention the fact, we talk about it constantly, when these guys get drafted, they basically have to play 2 full seasons before they get an off season and are able to physically reset and start to develop. I think year 2 is going to be big for him. I think he's going to be more physical. I think he's going to be stronger. And I think we're finally going to see what he's capable of because he's going to have space.
Yes. And he has to be thrilled with the lineman they brought in, because I just see zone stretch and that dude taking off and cutting back. Like, they run zone stretch to the right, and then Spencer Fano with the backside cutoff opening a cutback lane, and Dylan Sampson just taking off. I think both guys are to love that. But yeah, I mean, if we get to think, like, this is the part that's really interesting, is because we sort of, hopefully everybody stays healthy, but you sort of have your main 4 weapons as receivers in Judy Concepcion, Harold Fannin, and Denzel Boston. But you have this rotating cast of characters to fill out those other guys. Obviously, Isaiah Bond is going to have a big role as a field stretcher, space creator, and potentially instant offense. You're going to have Malachi Corley. We'll see what happens with him, because he's a tough runner. Like this, it's part of the reason I never understood any of this crap with Zachariah Branch or some of the other people that were being thrown out there, because why would you get another little fidget when you have Dylan Simpson, who's 200 pounds? Yep. He's 5'8", 200 pounds. Like, why would I want to bring in 5'8", 177 who can do all the stuff? Like, Dylan Simpson can do that. Like, remind yourself, go watch the Raiders when he played a defense that was not good, how good he looked on that burst. Like, all of a sudden, if all these things are going down the field and you just turn and throw the ball to Dylan Sampson, there's not a whole lot of guys out there, and he's got a ton of space, like, he's going to kill people. And we've seen him do it.
How about the Tennessee game? Just the dump off into a little bit of space where he's one-on-one with a backer. Done. That's a win for the Browns. 10 times out of 10.
Yes. Like, that's the other, like, I think there has been Dylan Sampson erasure because he was bad, because the offense was bad last year, even though we saw him do stuff. I think he's going to be a completely different dude this year. I think and hope that both Dylan Sampson understands the opportunity in front of him, and Todd Monken looks at him and goes, "This is an untapped resource that we can get a whole lot more out of."
Yeah.
As a great changeup for what we have in Quinshon Judkins, and you can put him, the whole thing with, well, you can put them both on the field. Well, you can do that with these two. You can put Quinshon and Dylan on the field at the same time. You can motion them out to empty. You can do whatever. But like all of a sudden, you have real weapons, and you're not. If you're smart, you're not going to ask Dylan Sampson to block in the passing game. You're going to make him a satellite player and that water bug element, like they've had with guys like Eric Metcalf and Duke Johnson and those types. Just get the ball to him and let him create. And if everybody else is sort of causing problems and he's your fifth option or sixth option, depending on the setup, that's a pretty good place to be. We're talking about how the Browns going to defend Jeremy Bernard, which is going to be a problem if he's option 5. Dylan Sampson could be option 6.
All right. Well, how about this? Imagine this. Imagine it's 3rd and 5, and the Browns come out 3 wide receivers, a tight end, Dylan Sampson in the backfield. All of a sudden, you motion Dylan Sampson out to the slot. So you've got Fannin, you've got Sampson in the slot, you've got Casey Concepcion out there, you've got Isaiah Bond out there, and you've got Jerry Jeudy out there. That is an crazy amount of speed. And I mean, you space out the defense right there. Oh, that's not even including Denzel Boston. It's not even including, Quinshon.
Well, the other thing I think that I'm going to keep an eye on is, because he's done it, is Casey Concepcion going to end up in the backfield to do something that's going to cause a problem? Like, teams tend to freak out when they see that. And so if he's in the backfield, like Dylan Sampson is suddenly in the slot, does that create a weird freak out by the defense that now creates an opening for Dylan Sampson to be open and potentially right down the middle of the field? That stuff's really interesting. And I will get to the full breakdown, but watching casually the highlights, I do think Joe Royer has some of the Oscar Delp vertical seam. He's not nearly as explosive, but like enough where you're like, the defense has to figure out how to cover this, and it's going to potentially create space for somebody else if he's good enough to get on the field. But yes, they have all these little ancillary toys, which are interesting, that aren't the guy we are counting on to be effective. They are extras. They are exactly where they're supposed to be. I think Dylan Simpson is going to have a bigger role. I'm excited about that. But like, when you're not sitting there going, well, we need Isaiah Bond to
step up and be
the number, like people are talking about, well, Isaiah Bond can be the number 2 receiver. No, he can't. No, he can't. This is not real world. But now he can be your wide receiver 4. Like, we still have Cedric Tillman. I don't know what's going to happen with that, but we still have him. Is that a conversation that's going to be had where all of a sudden they're like, he was good enough, we're going to keep all these guys? But Matt Corley was really interesting last year. Are they going to use some of the same stuff where he's either a jet guy or a false key to create space, or they're going to just get the ball in his hands because he's 210 pounds and can run through people? Like,
I'm curious to see how they ultimately use Boston as well, because I feel like it's been real easy for us to look at KC and be like, okay, well, this is Zay Flowers. So we see how he uses Zay. We see how KC's likely to be, put into the offense. But it's going to be interesting to see what they do with Denzel, because it's a different skill set. It's a bigger body. It's going to be intriguing to see how they work him in and what they ultimately ask him to do.
Yeah, there's a lot of potential with just mixing and matching roles, putting guys all over the field. Learning curve's going to be big. How quickly can they figure this stuff out? How well can they teach them? How well can they coach it? All that stuff. But the possibility is there for them to just continuously put opponents in a blender trying to figure out how to cover these guys. And if they're obviously presuming they are going to be at least serviceable, if not good.
Well, I'll tell you what, man, it's been a hell of an offseason already. It was such a great draft weekend. And I can't remember a time where I felt better about the direction that the Browns were going in, just like top to bottom. Probably, I was probably pretty up there after Baker's rookie year, right? Just because we had all that positive buzz and they finished as strong as they did and everything like that. But I don't know, just the way they the way they closed out the draft and the offseason that they've had, and with all the holes and how they've filled them, everything like that, it's hard not to be intrigued. It's hard not to be optimistic. We still have the quarterback issue, but it's like you're not gonna fill every hole in every single offseason, right? Like we've boosted the receiving core, we've filled 5 holes on the offensive line. I feel like we've set the table now that like you pointed out, we're gonna get to the point where it's like, okay, we're a quarterback away. It's a good spot to be.
There's two big elements. There is great opportunity, and then there's a little pressure. Great opportunity that they've got more talent. This should open some things up and make things a little bit easier. But there's also a little bit of pressure on all these guys they brought in to perform. The depth chart has gotten better. The floor has been raised. There's pressure on the players themselves. There's pressure on the coaches. All of a sudden, they're not working. Todd Monken's not walking to an office where he's going, "Oh man, how the hell am I going to make this thing work?" Like, he's got stuff to work with, and now he's got to figure out how to utilize it. He's got to figure out how to coach it. He's got to figure out how to get his assistants to coach it. He's got to get it out of these guys. Say what you will, all these people who now hate Kevin Stefanski, like Quinshon Judkins and Harold Fannin were really good right out of the gate. That's going to create, I think, some unrealistic expectations for some guys, where everybody's going to go, why aren't these guys really good all of a sudden? And if Denzel Boston isn't doing great by week 3, people are going to go, oh, well, he's a bust, or something along those lines. Now, ultimately, if they win football games or they're scoring a lot of points, nobody will get to that point. But this is how this thing works. And the fact that you had such immediate promise out of those guys right out of the gate will put a little bit of pressure on these, which could be good, but also obviously put realistic stuff on them. But yeah, these guys have to deliver. And I'm glad we are in that position. And we're not talking the amount of times I've been asked, are the Browns tanking this year? The answer is no. They are not tanking this year. They are trying to win football games.
Yep, I agree. I agree with that completely. And it looks like time's up, guys. Chat, thank you for sticking with us. It is always a pleasure. We appreciate you so much. Thank you for the OBR Network for hosting us and dealing with all of my shenanigans while I try to keep Pete happy. But it's never easy. It's never easy. Either way, guys, it is always a pleasure. We appreciate you so much. We will be back next Tuesday for another episode. And let's go, man. Go Browns. Great draft weekend. Go Gardos. Go Cavs. Let's go. Y'all have a great weekend, and we will catch you guys next week.